Mr. J.D. Wiles, a retired farmer in the Fort Motte community of Calhoun County, South Carolina, has restored and preserved his past. He's taken his father's old general store that was built back in the 1920s and has really restored it to all the things that existed during that period. Join me now as we visit with Mr. Wiles and relive an important part of South Carolina history. Mr. Wiles, as we came in your father's store, I noticed gasoline outside at the old Gulf pump was 13.8 cents a gallon. You got any for sale at that price today?
Well, I don't have it in the tank. We'd have to pump some in it, but it'd be quite higher today.
I know a lot of people are interested in the cars because Ford Motor Company really made its name back in the 20s and 30s all throughout the United States. And you've got a Model A and a Model T. Both of them look like they ought to be in a showroom. Both of them run. I know you enjoy these.
Yeah, we enjoy them. The truck is a model, what they call a Model AA, and it's a 1929 model. And the Model T is 1950, and he built the Model Ts from 1909 till 1927, and they was mostly what was sold in the area.
Your father's store's got to bring back a lot of memories. I understand you spent a few nights in here in your early days.
Yeah, we had living quarters in the back until I was about 5 years old, and then we moved out into a farmhouse.
Well, the store contains something that a lot of people may not realize existed back in the 30s in some of our old general stores. It contained some drugs because we didn't have drugstores on every corner. South Carolinians that lived way out in the rural areas, they couldn't go to town just to pick up a bottle of aspirin, and the general store kind of served as a drugstore.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of drugs as aspirin and cough syrup and that type stuff. Also sold medicine for the horses when they have,
get the colic or something like that. Well, I know that you also carried a lot of horse equipment. Of course, the old mule collar, horse collar, that was a staple for any type of equipment relating to these animals, and the single tree and the double tree and the other items. The farmers really needed this equipment to carry on the operation.
And they sold plow points and replacement parts for the plows, the turn plows and so forth, and sweeps to plow the crops.
Well, electricity really started going back in the 30s, and you've got some wire running in this building. It doesn't run in the walls like traditional wiring a house. It's running on the top. Now, you've got to tell us about this, and this is actually a live wire too.
Yeah, they call it the knob and spool all the way to wire the stores, and that's the way it was done back then.
Well, of course, all these old country stores contain some canned goods. I see you've got some on the shelf that you can't find in any of the stores in South Carolina today. No. But they also carried a lot of other items too, the coffee, the sugar, and some of the staple items that a lot of homes had.
Yeah, all the rice and the grits and sugar came in 100-pound bags, and you sold them by a quart. You dip out a quart and sell them so much for a quart.
I know you've got a building where you've got some old equipment that they also bring back some memories. Your father was a miller. He had an old corn mill, and it didn't run on water. It ran on a hit-and-miss motor. And a lot of the farmers would bring their corn to your father, and he would toll them. You didn't actually pay money, you just took a little corn, didn't you?
Yeah, I took 25% of it, peck out of a bushel.
I know back on September the 22nd, 1989, when Hugo arrived, a lot of people were looking for generators, but J.D. Wiles already had a generator, but it was built years and years ago, and this generator was used to charge batteries.
That's correct. They charged batteries. It was a 32-volt system, and the batteries were encased in a glass case. So we had power from that little outfit for about 3 or 4 years.
The blacksmith shop, even though your father was not a blacksmith, this was an important part of anyone living in rural South Carolina, because we were kind of in a transition period when the automobile came in and we still had a few horses and mules, and we need to shoe these horses and do other metal work.
Yeah, it was interesting what they did, the type of work they did.
You've got one piece of farm equipment that I know you're very fond of. It really begins when Pally Wiles got started farming.
That's correct. It's a 1941 John Deere B, and my father, well, he bought it in 41, and I started farming full-time in 1947. And
you can't put a price tag on that tractor, can you?
No. I can tell you what it cost, about $850, and it's worth a lot more than that now.
I know it. Well, Mr. Wiles, the old potbelly stove was the center of all the country stores in South Carolina years ago, and of course these rocking chairs go right along with it. It was kind of a focal point where people in the community gathered to find out the news, to gossip, and just enjoy each other's fellowship. If this stove could talk today, it probably could tell some real good tales, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could tell some good tales. Yeah, they'd sit around and chit-chat and chew tobacco, and it was interesting to listen to them. They also sat out in front of the store on those benches, and during this time, there's so many people that lost their property, probably 50% of the farmers that lost their property.
Well, I'm glad you saved your property, and I'm real glad that you've preserved your history in addition to South Carolina history, and on behalf of Team Making It Grow, we certainly congratulate you. And I know you enjoy a lot of good days out here by yourself, sitting in this rocking chair and just thinking about the old days.
Yep, that's correct.